Broadcasting from the center of the universe in Stony Creek, Ontario, Canada. This is the Renovating Life Podcast. With your hosts, Steve Kopak and Dan Carroll. And producer, Greg Natishan. Follow along on their journey to become real estate entrepreneurs and interview guests that will inspire you to take action in your life. Brought to you by Battlefield Real Estate Investments. Invest in real estate. Invest with Battlefield Real Estate Investments.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go podcasting, boys. This is the Renovating Life Podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Carroll. Over there to my left, the bald and the beautiful one, our producer, he is, Greg Natishan. Say hi.
I'm Batman.
And my business partner and co-host of the show, he is the man amongst men. His name is Steve Kopak. How you doing, buddy?
Not bad. It's another good week, I guess.
Yeah. It's an amazing week. We
Yeah.
have some exciting things to talk about this week for sure. Right?
Got another place.
Yeah, that we're working
Almost.
on. Yep. It hasn't been
Finalized, but
we're making progress.
yeah.
Right? And that's a good thing. And we have an important guest in today. Somebody
Who
that
helps us out a lot.
helps us
Yeah,
finance our
Yeah,
projects.
without him, we wouldn't be able to do projects.
Josh Perez is broker of record, mortgage broker, Synergy Mortgage Group. Thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here, and appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's Josh. I don't even know how many projects you helped us fund now, but I mean, aside from that, you've been an amazing resource for us. Just to, we're learning as we go, and it's important, I think, for anybody that's looking to get into investing is to establish a team of trusted, professional advisors, and you've been that to us, so we appreciate that from you.
No, thank you guys. You guys have been, wonderful clients and partners in my own business in a lot of ways. And no, I think you nailed it. The team piece is in my opinion, the single most important part of investing in real estate if you want to, grow it into something that can be pretty meaningful for you and whatever your financial goals might be and family. That's
right.
Number one, I think.
Right. So you own Synergy Mortgage Group. How long have you been doing mortgages? You were with CIBC prior to this, right?
Yeah, so I'm one of the owners of Synergy Mortgage Group, along with my one partner, Greg Cox, and my brother, Jacob. And so I started mortgages when I was at big bank, CIBC, and I started there in 2009. And I was at CIBC doing mortgages as well as, everything else like mutual funds, RSPs, retirement planning, bank accounts, and
a lot of the basics.
Yeah, exactly. And, learned a lot there. But I was from CIBC from 2009 till end of 2014. And it wasn't pretty much 2010 bought my first investment property. And that's kind of when the wheels started turning as to, real estate is kind of what I'm becoming passionate about, and working with clients and mortgages is tied to real estate. And then I just kind of learned a bit more about the broker industry and being able to have more options and help more people and just really be a specialist in that space. And
right.
It's a lot closer to my real estate investing. So that's when I made the leap to the broker side in 2015. And then we just opened up our own brokerage at the beginning of this year. So we're just wrapping up year one completely on our own as a brokerage.
Nice. That's interesting. I mean, we'll go in deep into the investing later, but I'm really interested too, how you decided to go into business for yourself. Because I think a lot of people get caught up in the comfort zone, right? You get caught up in the day-to-day. A lot of people may not be happy at their jobs, but they're too afraid to take that leap. So what brought you to that decision to take that leap? What was that like? Were you nervous, or was it just an automatic, I know I'm going to do this?
It certainly wasn't automatic. It goes back to that first kind of point about a team and leaning on resources and learning from people, right? So I decided that I was kind of coming at a crossroads with wanting to move on from the bank and the salary space, because I really started to determine what kind of the end path was there. And so yeah, I was really enjoying the real estate investing, and my partner Greg at the time was actually in like the mobile mortgage role at TD, and so kind of learned a little bit about how things were going in his world, because he kind of made the leap at least to the full 100% commission side at TD maybe a couple of years before I decided to leave the broker or the bank space. And then I had some partners and people in the industry who I knew that were mortgage brokers that worked at banks before, and so just really like picked their brain for some time, just learned a bit about how they built their business and the things they needed to do, understanding numbers and financials, made sure to save money as if I wasn't gonna be making money on the commission space for like close to a year. And but no, I wasn't. I was driven to do it, and I knew that it would take some time, but I was confident in myself to be successful. But certainly scary going in there that last day when I was going to give my notice. And I still remember being extremely nervous. I had a great relationship with my manager at the time. He was a great guy. I still keep in touch with him and a few of my managers at CIBC to this day. But yeah, I still felt very nervous, and it's the fear of the unknown. And, you're getting rid of that crutch. You're not going to have that paycheck coming your way in 2 weeks, right? It's like, oh man, okay. It's sink or swim. You're forced to, but one thing is like, you're literally forced to, you're like, okay, well, I used to have 40 hours accounted for in an office getting paid. I all of a sudden have a ton of time on my hands, and I might as well do something with it.
You actively chose to go from a job where you're working 40 hours a week with a steady paycheck and decided, I'm going to work 100 hours a week and hopefully make the same.
Yeah. So the optics of what things would look like when I left to what I learned quickly in my first, year of what it's going to take to be successful or achieve a certain, number and maybe lifestyle or time was totally different than what it is. And yeah, a lot of people just think, oh, it's you're your own boss. You can just kind of wake up at noon and and just make your schedules. But like, over time, like you start to have other responsibilities and maybe people that you're responsible for, and you don't know, like, 2020 is a pretty good example of, you don't know what the world is going to bring. You don't know what's going to happen.
This year was a tough year to start your own mortgage company, right?
Yeah, fortunately our business, the real estate market, I'm sure, as you guys know, and in buying, it
skyrocketed. Like I thought it was going to
plummet. But we didn't know that, right?
Yeah,
At least you must have been going into March, end of March or April, thinking like, oh God, is CIBC hiring?
Yeah. No, there was, I remember I had this conversation the other day, and it was like, not panic mode, but it was like, okay, like let's prepare that, this business could fundamentally change. And, just for, a few weeks, it was just like, I'm on the phone every day with anyone in the industry that, kind of have respect for, knowledge for, just pick their brain. What are you hearing in your world? Talking to lender VPs, my real estate partners, what's going on in your world? What's the real estate board saying? Regulators, stuff like that. And just trying to stay informed and be the best version of ourselves to our clients, right? A lot of people calling about deferrals, and some people might say, oh my God, it's like such a waste of time that you don't get compensated for. But it's like, okay, it's great to be there for people when it's easy, you're being compensated for it. But like, this is probably one of the most fearful, important times in their world, and they're fearful of their house, their most important asset, and a mortgage over their head, and their family and their job. Like, there's a lot of things going on in people's world. Like, got to try to be the best resource.
People will remember that, like when you're actually when you're providing that kind of service, it's not that you're a mortgage broker anymore. I remember when I was selling houses full time, I had a client, they had closed on a property, and like 4 months later they called me and said, my carbon monoxide alarm just went off. What do I do? They called me. They didn't call 911. I said, call 911. Hang up with me. Thanks for calling, by the way. Do you have any referrals? Yeah. And
Call 911.
on your way out the door, maybe you want to call 911.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were without power and all this kind of stuff, and I went over there, they were without heat, so we went over there with space heaters and all this kind of stuff. So again, it's going above and beyond, and again, open lines of communication with everybody in the industry helps you develop your business too.
Absolutely. I mean, so to your point, yeah, there is, I'm sure with everyone, if you're full time, of like, what is the rest of the year going to look like? And then, for some reason, super low interest rates and just a lot of buyers in the market. And I think there's a lot of things that, in my opinion, that change maybe with people's perceptions of like what a house means to you when you're locked down. Suddenly I got to spend a lot of more time in here forcibly, right? And I'm like, maybe
I need more space.
Who are these people in my house?
Yeah.
I used to like them.
I don't like them anymore.
Now I spend too much time with them. So I'll start a podcast and hang out with my friends. So wait a minute, this has become a very cathartic experience now. Cheers, guys. Hey, bottoms up.
Yeah, thanks.
Gentlemen, too evil.
Batman.
That's right. I'm Batman. You've got a nice office. All these transactions, it's funny because these days everything's online and electronic signatures and stuff like that.
I've never been down in the office.
How many mortgages never even met in person? This is the first time Steve and Josh have actually met in person. But you've got a nice setup there. What street are you on again?
We're on Bold Street.
Bold, just before
James
Duke,
South.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Just north of Duke.
And how long have you been in that space? It's a good spot.
So we've been in that space for, I could be off by a year, but we're probably coming on 3 or 4 years.
Right.
So we actually have 3 mortgage teams or broker teams in the building.
I was going to ask. I saw the signs.
Yeah. So if Synergy's one entity, there's Empire Mortgage Group, there's Bold Mortgage Group, and essentially like we're all kind of buddies, part of the same brokerage previously that we were with, and we were renting space, and we're all kind of similar circles, buddies, kind of help each other out in a weird way. We're also competitors too. And at the time we needed to find space, and we were looking at things together, and then this place was for lease, and myself and 2 partners, different partners, own the building next door, so we know the neighborhood, and there's a bit of an incentive there for us to maybe poke around with whoever was leasing it to see if we could buy it. And a few conversations, and then as a group we bought it. And it's funny, like at first we're like, got a lot of space here to fill, and then fortunately everyone's business is doing well, growing, hiring, and now we're like at capacity and have some people, asking for space, don't really have space, but really happy there. But to your point, like we don't, it's weird, the phone, email thing, like I could count on my hand, regardless of COVID, the amount of people I've, see in person. It's mainly like partners, like yourself, and that we would meet with and kind of just chat about our business. But most clients, it's more convenient for them to have a 15-20 minute conversation or a Zoom call versus loading up, getting in the car, driving, parking. Usually you meet in person, it's at least an hour.
Oh yeah.
And then another drive home. It's like I'm like, hey,
it's a chunk out of the day.
For sure. You spend more time with your family or doing other things, and you can still make sure that we cover what's important to you financially or with your real estate purchase.
You bring up something interesting. So you have an office where there are technically 2 competitors with you, but you're all friends. But because of your relationships and you guys are feeding off of one another, you're actually all thriving as a result.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, I think we all share similar values with our business and just personally, and kind of like set up our teams and our process similarly. And I guess the moral of the story is there's a lot.
Sorry,
flies.
Fucking flies. Can't get rid of them.
There's a lot.
If there's an old lady listening to the show, email me, tell me how to get rid of fruit flies. Like there's got to be some like old witch shit.
That's right.
That could fix it. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all good. Yeah, so I think the moral of the story, there is a lot of business. There's a lot of real estate transactions and mortgage transactions happening out there. We rarely, step on each other's toes. And if there is an opportunity where, kind of both, like, it doesn't happen very often, and it just comes down to just bringing it up. Hey, like, how do you know this person? When were you talking to him? Okay, cool. We're good, right? Like,
There's enough business out there for everybody. And I mean, I wouldn't be doing this now if it wasn't for other agents out of my KW office that are also investors that have no vested interest in my success helping me. Whether it's been Mark Loeffler, Sandy McKay, Alex Powell, Brian Karsti, the list goes on. Especially like when COVID hit, I was on the phone too. But even before then, and even to this day, if I have a question or something like that, I mean, the point is, reach out, talk to somebody. There's a lot of people that want to do this or take on a business, but they're afraid they don't know where to start. Start with somebody who's in the business. People like to talk about their success, frankly. Right?
it's fair to say, yeah.
So I find, especially if somebody's really successful, buy them dinner or something like that. These days you might not be able to, but I mean, the point is, there's so much information out there, and there's so many people doing everything. Whatever that space is that you want to try to, get your slice of the pie, get out there and start talking to people is the point. Take action, do something.
Couldn't have said it better. I mean, I tell this to a lot of people, like from, again, my own experience, starting in, bought our first property in 2010, but we really started kind of, me and my partners, planning around it maybe a year and a half before that. But the community is really funny where, like, everyone kind of, like, pays it forward, lends an ear with no vested interest in the time they spend. And it, eventually when someone lends the ear to you down the road, if you have some experience with one or a couple properties or a major construction project, most people in our community, real estate community, remember that, and they're happy to lend some time to someone else to do the same.
Right.
And I don't think in other industries that's the case. A lot of people keep their cards close to their chest.
Absolutely.
It's way different, right?
Yeah. Could you imagine Taylor Steele going and knocking on the door over at Russell asking for some advice?
Yeah, no.
Right.
Well, okay. Hold on. Back in the day when Janko Steel started up, our operators were teaching their operators how to run their machinery.
Okay.
But that was like
That's
70s,
old school.
80s. That's, it's old school shit.
It's old school, right?
But
And I mean,
to talk about like what he was saying, how no vested interest, all that shit. John, he's going to help us out.
explain. John
Tenbrink.
Yep.
He's a contractor we used on one of our resto mods.
Yes. First one that we did together.
First one we did together.
Resto mod.
So we don't call them
Yeah, we don't
flips.
call them flips. Flips are cheap. Resto mods are cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's just our word.
Can I
It's a
borrow that?
restoration.
Yeah, you
we're
can borrow that,
modernizing.
for sure.
We're taking a property and we're actually we spend money and we do a good job. We don't just it's not no lipstick on a pig with us. If you're buying one of our projects, it's a legit. It's a
Okay.
You're buying good quality.
You'll see one day when we're allowed to have parties again. We had like an open house at McDonald where it was just the people, like the contractors, we had other neighbors,
yeah.
real estate agents. We just had a big party,
What a good
Yeah.
turnout.
right? And with like, we wanted to do it with Shamrock, but we can't.
Yeah.
It's fucking COVID shit. But yeah, you'll see. Like our projects are, I don't know. I want to say they're better than at least 70% of them out there.
Just to jump in, I think that's such an important part to distinguish with real estate investors or people getting into it, because you see things all along the spectrum, and people's expectations, like with varying degrees of quality for construction, are sometimes like still the same as someone who's spending 3 times or 4 times as much on a reno, and they expect to get the same result on a sale or an appraisal. And it's a concept sometimes that gets missed from people, and it's critical. Like, it might seem obvious or common sense, but some people miss that, and it's up there as one of the most important pieces to
Well,
a
even
successful
like an appraisal, right? Like when we're doing the Buy Fix Refis, or what are they called, burrs or whatever, you got to make the place look good. It's got to be good workmanship. You're not going to get, if you want a $700,000 appraisal on a $40,000 renovation, you're not fucking getting it.
Right. You know, like the bank's not stupid.
No, the bank's not dumb.
They're not going to take on any unnecessary risk, right?
No, and even for the appraiser too, it's almost like insulting to them, at a certain point where you're like, what kind of research or what basis are you like coming up with this value? Just because you did this, that's what it should be worth? Like, have you done any research? Have you spoken to any realtors, professionals who've sourced out comps and actual comps that actually have similar finishes or similar square footage? Or I put in a kitchen in, so regardless, it's worth.
This is expensive paint. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
right.
Just say it that way because, some people, like, it can be very large financial lessons, like painful financial lessons to learn, right? By overlooking that concept.
For those that are watching, they might not understand what we're talking about. So the Buy Fix Refinance Strategy, you're familiar with going out and maybe just buying a rental property. You put 20% down and you go find some renters. But this strategy is really a wealth building strategy in that you find a home that you could technically flip. You take a single family, say turn it into a duplex, triplex, whatever. You're spending money, and instead of selling it, you're refinancing it and technically flipping it back to yourself and refinancing it and pulling most, if not all, or maybe even more money than you put in for your initial investment.
Correct. Yeah,
right?
And that helps you go back and do it over again. Ideally, there's multiple units, multiple income to carry the higher debt on the property, right?
So Synergy Mortgage, everyone knows I want to go buy a house. I can either go to a bank or I can go to a mortgage broker. Why would somebody go to Synergy if they're just looking for? And what kind of services do you provide other than just for like the standard? I'm buying a house for my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So services we provide, like literally anything related to real estate debt or mortgages. So whether that's purchasing your own home or an investment property, whether that's refinancing your own home or investment property, whether your mortgage is up for renewal and you're looking to shop around rates, options, whether you need a private loan, whether you don't qualify with a typical bank and need an alternative option be due to credit, or maybe you're self-employed, don't claim a lot of income, maybe there's all kinds of different situations, but anything related to a mortgage, we can help out with. Why someone would come to us, there's, first bank, first broker. A lot of people don't know that, majority of the business that we place are with big banks. They're great lenders, except we're not tied to one. We don't work for one. They're very important partners in our business, but it's a very unbiased approach. What I tell people is we work with you. We learn what your goals are and what's important to you, and then we try to find a lender to fit into your box, right? Versus you trying to fit into one lender's box if you go direct to a bank.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that working with a mortgage broker, you don't pay a fee to work with us. We get compensated by the lender we place your business with, and our incentive is to do an amazing job, so you work with us. We don't get compensated until we arrange a mortgage for you. So if we're not doing a very good job, you're not going to stick with us. So our incentive is to do a great job for you so that you stay with us till the finish line.
Right.
And then the main thing I would say is, for us, it's about service and quality of service and quality of advice.
Right. And if I can chime in on that part, I've dealt with enough, hundreds of clients myself through the real estate industry, and I can't count how many times where we've run into financing issues. And what I like about you guys in particular is that you're focused on finding solutions. So the goal is to get a mortgage. Now, if they qualify, they got an 800, score, and hardly any debt. That's an easy one. But somebody really wants to buy a home, or maybe they own a bunch of different properties. You guys are really good at finding solutions, where a lot of other fly-by-night mortgage agents or whatever, might be limited in their abilities to provide that service. So oftentimes when I have people come to me saying that I was told that I can't get this done or whatever, I just send them to Josh, and all of a sudden it's like, here's the solution. It may not still work out for them, but at least it's a solution. And that's what I find what a mortgage professional does. It's not just, oh, I'll just get you a mortgage for your average Joe, which you can do all day long, but we can solve problems too.
You hit the nail on the head, because, a lot of times people will come to you and they'll mention what they want to do. And sometimes it's not possible exactly the way they framed it, but making sure you understand, when you first talk to someone, what they want to do, and not just react to that, but take some time, understand their financial picture, and then come back and maybe present, hey, this isn't exactly what you told me you wanted to do, but here's, 2-3 different ways that maybe you might want to consider it. It's pretty close to getting you to where you want to be. It's totally up to you whether you want to do that, but never underestimate, I think, as a lesson learned, what someone will draw on resource-wise or people-wise to accomplish what they want to do. And real estate, buying a home or invest property typically is a very important milestone for a lot of people, right? So
Massive.
Finding a cosigner,
Massive.
paying off that debt, a lot of people will make it happen, right?
Yeah.
If that's the difference.
Well, one of my brother's biggest things was getting his in-laws off the mortgage, because he wanted.
They were co-signers.
They were
on
co-signers,
mortgage.
right? And he's Mark. He's got a lot of pride, right? So he wanted to be able to say, "Yo, I did this on my own," right? And Synergy helped him out. Like, he's now the sole owner, him and Stacia are now the sole owners of their mortgage.
Yeah,
right.
his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Awesome. Listen, in the second half, we're going to take a quick break, but in the second half, I want to get into you. You are an investor yourself, and I want to talk about what you own, and I want to talk about financing multiple projects and partnerships and all this kind of stuff. So we'll delve deep into that in the second half. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Awesome.
This is Lindsay Hewitt from Lighten Up Challenges. If you are wanting to regain control of your life and lose the weight for good, check out lightenupchallenges.ca and join one of our weight loss challenges. The next challenge starts January 4th. You can register at lightenupchallenges.ca.
And now, back to the Renovating Life podcast.
And we're back. Josh Perez, broker of record, Synergy Mortgage Group. We were just kind of delving deep into, taking a chance, breaking away from the norm, having a job and starting your own business and everything that it takes. I want to get into some of your real estate stuff. But first, your arms, dude. Like, seriously. Like, when you're not doing mortgages, you're just living in the gym. This is the Renovating Life podcast, and we need to get into a little more of, maybe a little bit of health and fitness and stuff.
Get some health and fitness advice.
This is a 3-for-1 here. We got a business owner, we got real estate investor, and a guy who could probably crush a walnut, where. But how long you been in the gym? How long you been working out?
Forever. Like, since I was a teenager, I always played, sports growing up, and I'm a shorter guy, right? So a couple of these beers and no exercise, it's a slippery slope. So no, it's good. It keeps the mind fresh. I try to do something most mornings, and I find just the brain gets going a little bit better when
you're a morning guy.
A little bit. Yeah.
What's your routine like when you wake up?
During the week, try to aim for 5:36.
Nice.
And then most days I'll read a chapter or two and then try to get to the gym for 7, come home, answer a couple emails, shower, and then get into the office pretty much.
What are you reading right now?
Big into leadership, John Maxwell. I'm this year on his 4th or 5th book of John Maxwell. It's big it's a big theme for me. I'm really enjoying it a lot, and now with our team growing and bringing on some mortgage agents, I think it's really important to try to be the best version of a leader to other people around me.
Last week we were talking about a book that you're reading, and both you and I have covered Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership. If you read that one,
you know what? I started that on audio. See, sometimes you get recommended a book, and you're not completely done one, and then you're halfway through, and so I got through it. It was really intense, really good. Like I literally have it on my Audible. It'll probably say I'm like an hour in or something like that. Yeah. So no, I haven't gone through it. Sandy actually recommended that book to me.
Sandy McKay.
Yeah.
So actually Sandy McKay is who I think referred me to you actually originally. Yeah. Right. So you're really a specialist with investors, right?
Yeah, I kind of
worked out that way.
Yeah, I'd say it worked out that way. Yeah, for sure. I'd say probably half, maybe a bit more than half the clients we help are investors. And it's fun for me because it's important for me to continue to invest, and I can appreciate certain things that people want to accomplish or going through because, a lot of the time, I've experienced some of the challenges too. So
sure.
It's exciting though.
So how many properties do you own? Sorry, I'm just going to lift this up a little bit there.
I should probably know this number. I know units.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. No. I know by units. I think we're at 39, I would say.
Nice.
I've got a couple, I have some stuff 100% on my own. I've got a couple stuff with some partners, a couple things with other partners, but all combined, I think 39 doors right now. Yeah.
Why do you recommend partnerships?
I don't know that I recommend partnerships for everyone. I happen to fall into one with how I bought my first property, and it just kind of grew from there. But everyone was bringing different things to the table.
Right.
But in general, a lot of times for people with time, resources, and capital, you can go a lot further with the right partner.
You said something there, like bringing something to the table. So a lot of people that I talk to that are afraid about investing into real estate are scared because they don't know, they don't know how to build houses or they don't know anything about real estate. But in general, I think most people have something to bring to the table. And that's, I think, where partnerships really are really beneficial.
Absolutely, right? It's whether it's time, whether it's like hunger and finding resources, it's capital. Those are probably the big things, right? Or experience, right? That's another one, obviously.
So just rentals, or have you done flips, or?
I think everything.
He might do flips. We do resto mods.
No.
I'm going to get Captain America over here to fuck you up. You say that again.
Oh,
he might do flips. I don't know yet. We do resto mods.
The resto mod, yeah. No, I think we did one resto mod and no other flip. The one flip, if you want to call it that, was like a 1 year flip. I don't even know if you can call it flip 1 year, but one of us was living in it. It was very slow. But the whole goal was to buy it and renovate it and sell it. But everything's been, buy and hold, rent out. And, back in 2010, I wasn't familiar with the BRRRR, buy, renovate, rent, refinance.
So you were just straight up buying rental properties and you had equity tied in. And
yeah, so, 10 years ago, as crazy as that sounds, fully acknowledge, like, the rules back then were way different than they are now. Like, much more challenging now to qualify to borrow money. And so
we were just having that discussion. I had a meeting at Josh's office and we were talking about, like, why can I only qualify for this many mortgages when we've got 4 people amongst us and stuff? But things have changed a lot.
Things have changed, in the last 2 years, let alone 10 years with rules around mortgages. I mean, the things that would be permitted, just way different, way more tolerant, a bunch less auditing with lenders. Like, oh, I've been with this bank for 30 years. Okay, you know what? Maybe your credit's so, or maybe your income to debt ratios aren't good. But you know what? You've been a good client, so we can just approve you. Whereas
Sure.
now, like, there's just so much more government regulatory auditing with banks that, you know, if that file gets pulled behind the scenes, those banks and institutions are getting some serious fines. So those whole rationales of like, oh, this client's been with us for 30 years, they just get approved. Like, obviously it's not like that, but exceptions, they just can't happen anymore.
The relationships don't really matter as much anymore. They're looking at the financials. They're looking at the numbers.
It's very specific. It's math, right? So a lot of clients are like, oh, I heard, you do magic. It's like, no, there's no magic. Because like me, I equate magic to fraud, right?
Yeah.
There's no magic, right?
True.
Yeah.
There's no magic at all. It's just, we try to understand, your scenario a little bit better and try to pitch a few ideas. And we do have access to a lot of different lenders and programs, but yeah, you know what, early on, like literally we started with, me and a couple buddies literally in one of our, parents' kitchen with a city of Hamilton map taped to the kitchen table, scouting out like neighborhoods. And we just started literally for a year and a half, like opened up a joint bank account and just bi-weekly savings together for our first, down payment for a year and a half. And, didn't have to put a ton down at that time, but, we ended up buying our first place. It was like kind of a turnkey duplex in Hamilton for $208,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good old days.
Right.
Yeah. And so,
Swimming in equity now.
crazy. Yeah. We actually still own that property to this day.
Have you financed it since, or are you just looking at the cash flow?
No, we've refinanced it two times. Since then, without any crazy major renovations.
Wow.
But fortunate. And then so you asked about partners. So like we just kind of started. So we've been kind of loyal to each other. We each,
Sure.
so it was myself, my partner Greg, and my other partner Zoran. With that is he's comes from a construction background. So different people kind of bringing different things to the table in that space. And but everything we've stuck to has been rentals, and nowadays been a bit we've gone into some larger unit properties. But yeah, all rentals definitely.
I think talking about like all the rules changes and all this kind of stuff, and particularly I guess over the past like 5 years, just seeing like real estate kind of just explode, locally, moving quickly. I think like if you want to buy one or two properties, it's one thing, but if you're planning on doing this as a business, get out there and make it happen. I know everyone's waiting for this bubble to burst and all this kind of stuff. First of all, maybe we'll touch on that. Do you feel like we're in a bubble? Like, is this still a good time to invest in real estate?
The bubble question is just like straight up, like, I don't know. And anyone I think who's super passionate or aggressive about having an opinion one way or another, I just think it's a little irresponsible. I don't think we really know, but you can talk about, certain factors. Like as a real estate agent, like is it fair to say that there's not enough supply for the buyers that are out there?
I read an article on CBC about that. It was CBC Hamilton. They were talking, I think at the time in July, they had something like 6,000 to 7,000 people looking for houses in Hamilton, and there was only like 2,500 to 3,000 available.
Right.
Right. So the supply and demand is what's driving these prices.
Low
up.
inventory.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that inventory has been, kind of an issue for a very long time, right? Which obviously causes price to go up. I mean, interest rates being so low certainly helps. And then, I think another piece that's interesting is, in at least in the greater Hamilton area for the last, 3-4 years, a lot of, people have felt that, borrowers and buyers from Toronto, have come out this way, and, prices look attractive to them compared to what they've bought in the GTA. And, those people are still coming here. But, I mean, is it possible that a lot more are coming here because now there's way more people who can work from home and don't need to go downtown Toronto to work in those corporate towers, which most of them are not allowing people to even come back to deep 2021?
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people working from home even when this COVID shit's done, because these big companies are going to look at it and say, why do we need this office? Why do we need 40 cubicles on floor fucking 2? right?
Why are we paying?
Why are we
maintenance
paying
and-
this rent
Yep.
when everything can be done from home?
Yeah, that's a lot of overhead right there.
Like our sales guys at work, for instance, they didn't miss a beat, and they were all working from home.
Our productivity went up
Yeah,
since being at home. Calculable, like they were actually able to calculate it, went up 25%.
yeah, but is that because you guys are working longer than 8
Yes.
to 5 or 9 to 5?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly
So if they were to use time in it, like hours per sale or
Right.
hours per dollar, I bet you it's the same.
So, I mean, there's this huge demand for real estate. And I guess over the past year, one thing that hasn't been a factor that usually is in Ontario real estate anyway is immigration. Right? So there's a bit of a backlog there. And anytime somebody asks me if we feel like there's, going to be a bubble burst, there's a lot of people waiting to get into this country that, that need somewhere to live, whether they can buy a home cash or if they're looking for a rental. The demand isn't
It's going
going
to be
away.
massive.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't sound like government's plans for immigration are slowing. It's almost maybe in the opposite direction,
right.
right?
It's
again,
on
just
pause. Right now it's on pause.
Right.
But
Well,
they're
due to-
gonna
due to
hit the
COVID,
play
right?
button eventually, and you're just gonna have an influx of people.
I think there's going to be another wave. That's
Of
why I'm
increasing,
looking.
Yeah,
That's why I'm looking for more rentals right now, so that we can ride that wave of increased equity. It's
Yeah.
free money, right?
Yeah, in terms of bubble, I'm trying to think what would cause. I mean, if lenders decided they're gonna all of a sudden be like, yeah, you know what,
you
we're
jack the
gonna
rates.
really, yeah, that can't really happen. But if they just were like, yeah, we're too fearful, we're just gonna change the rules of what it takes to qualify. And but I think behind the scenes, the government's like, you better not mess up this real estate market. Whether they're happy about it or not, it makes up such a big pillar of the economy in Canada that
There's so many people that depend on it, really, to
For sure.
to continually build their wealth
Yeah.
too. I mean, we are,
Yeah,
right?
So yeah, it's not sure. There could be some other unforeseen world event or thing that happens, but
like I don't think there's gonna be like a burst where this bubble bursts. There might be a time where it kind of levels off, and it's not climbing the way it's climbing now.
Right. I mean, we could see a reversal. I mean, it's happened in Canada. I mean, you look at Alberta, for example, right? You look at Calgary. Oil has taken a big hit, and you've actually seen a decline in pricing, but you haven't seen a crash
No.
per se, right? And this is what I love about the Buy Fix and Refinance strategy. If you're buying a home, refinancing, and pulling all of your money out, for example, say you got 100% of your money out, and the value of that property goes down. Yeah, it sucks, but how much money have you lost? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing until you have to sell. No, it's a good example, and I find that one with certain clients and people is not a lot of people want to run the math, right? So how many people say, is it a good time to buy, right? And then I've just heard some just good quick analogy, so best time to buy, was yesterday, or talk to someone who's owned a house for more
Best time
than,
to buy was 20 years ago. The next
Right.
best time is
No.
now.
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, the other thing is the different pillars of where you earn a rate of return in real estate is you put as a rental property 20% of what the asset is worth, right? 100,000 on a $500,000 house. You go invest in the stock market, $100,000 worth of dollars gets you $100,000 worth of stock or mutual fund.
Right.
If that stock goes up 5%,
Right.
It's
that's
105.
it's
Unless
105.
you're looking into options and all this kind of stuff, it was just something that I get into, but I get what you're saying. But the other thing is, too, you have control over the asset. I can go and add value to a property. I can't call
Microsoft and say, hey, I need 3 more points on my stock.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Elon Musk doesn't give a shit about my opinion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No,
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, maybe a couple more podcasts. He might.
You're right.
do
Yeah,
it,
just a
yeah.
couple
Or
more,
just
right?
email them. See if you, I don't know, Does he have a Tesla plane he can
Probably
fucking fly
answers his
down?
email.
Tesla plane.
Drop
That's
his
next.
Tesla chopper right on the front lawn?
Did you watch?
Isn't he in space right now? Didn't they launch?
They launched their first full crew.
Wait, is
to
he
the
part of the
International
crew?
Space. No.
Imagine.
What a pussy.
No, he's going to Mars. He wants to die on Mars.
He wants to die on Mars?
Yeah.
Let's see.
But he.
And my goal is a
he's-
Dodge
he's
Ram
more useful here.
2500. His goal is to die on Mars.
Well, and this is where it comes to thinking big,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Good segue.
Steve and I started this partnership a year ago, and it started really with I just want to have a handful of properties and just and be secure, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like if you're thinking bigger, if you have the skill and the ability to take a skill and you set your goals, and when you hit it, you have to set new goals, and think of it like if you had that ability to grow something bigger and you decided not to, think of maybe like all the charities that are missing out on something, because you decided I'm fine just going up to the cottage and mailing it in for the rest of my life.
That that's something I think about every once in a while, and that's just a reminder, because I was thinking about it the other day. Is like, sometimes people are like, why, like, isn't whatever you're applying yourself to isn't enough for this and that, and it's just like, wouldn't it be irresponsible to just brush off an opportunity that you're capable of like pursuing, that could, whether it's not necessarily you or your family or friends or the people that work with you, that could bring more to them? Isn't that a little irresponsible when like so many people like maybe don't have the opportunity to do
Right.
that? It's like almost
Right.
ignorant to a certain extent, right?
It is
If
when
you
you think of it that
realize
way. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I got to keep that a bit more top of mind when I'm thinking about that, or wanting to get motivated
Right.
to do more. Sometimes is that exact point right there.
Right. Absolutely.
Like to me, a project's a project.
Yeah.
So now, like he said originally, he was like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna own a couple, retire, get lazy, go up north, get fat." Whereas like,
I got a head start on the fat thing.
No, yeah, but you lost 9 pounds, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. You didn't find them again, did you?
No.
Okay, good.
That's good.
But yeah, it's like a hunger now. It's almost like a drug. It's like, I want more. I want to do another one. I want to do another one.
That's what comes with
this
doing
one's
things.
over. Let's
Right.
buy another one.
It's everyone thinks. I remember thinking all I want to be able to say that I did is I flipped a property, and I did it, and it felt good, and I made money. But then I was like, all right, what's next?
Yeah, why can't I do it again?
And it's not just the money; it's having that ability to create something on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Like your business, like you're doing the same thing technically that you were doing before. If you just love doing mortgages, you could go to CIBC and do that. But no, you're creating your own space now.
Yeah, it's fair to say.
Right. And I mean, there's some value in that as well. Even just like, personally. And I think we're in the generation of the side hustle. Everyone's got their gig that pays the bills, and then they've got their passion. And I can't sit on the couch anymore because I'm always trying to think of like, shit, there's a million other things that I should be doing right now. And it's not work. It's just like, I want to find another property. I actually got in trouble at work for talking about real estate investing. Literally, it was like, people are talking, they're wondering how committed you are and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, listen, thanks for the info.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Maybe I'm projecting too much, but the bottom line is there's a bunch of young people out in the bullpen here that are going to be, renters for the rest of their lives, never owning a piece of property, never being able to do anything because they're stuck to a salary. And I'm letting people know that there's another option for them to get out there and own something and build, you can build a life based on your own terms. It doesn't mean you have to leave your job if you don't want to.
No, like, this whole buy, fix, refi shit. Why wouldn't a guy that's 24 or a woman 24, young, starting their career, has okay credit, go into a house where they got to spend a bit of money on it, and then they can have someone living in the basement or on the main floor. It doesn't matter which way you want to do it, and basically paying their own mortgage off.
I have 2 people at my job
why
that
not?
now purchased their first investment properties as a result of these conversations. That's a win.
I got lucky. I'm 39, so I bought a house at 24. Bought that townhouse in Winona for $199,000.
Yeah.
Now I see them for sale now on Realtor. They're over $575.
Oh yeah.
Well,
It's crazy, but I got in the market when it was way easier and cheaper.
Sure.
Well, to answer your question and point there, why wouldn't someone want to do that? Is just a lot of like people in your circles. It's great if you have a lot of like motivated, cheerleaders and people who are super positive, enthusiastic to embrace doing something new or different. But naysayers are pretty common, and like there's always someone who had a negative experience or a one-off or like sometimes like I don't know who said it once, kind of a joke, like a mortgage broker joke, like someone said, or I don't
There's
know
mortgage broker jokes,
yeah,
like lawyer
they're
jokes.
pretty boring. But like someone was like venting about how like a parent just like botched a situation that was so good for their kid, and it was just such bad advice. It's not that they had bad intention. It's just like advice from like 25 years ago.
Yeah, because 25 years ago, the best bank was under your mattress.
Right.
Sure.
Stuff
you know
like
what I
that.
mean?
So
The,
it's like
the Nike
sometimes-
shoebox.
Yeah, the Nike shoebox in the closet.
and it's usually people who, most of the time, like they don't have poor or bad intentions, but they're not qualified to give advice on a certain topic, unfortunately. And then there's other people that just, don't like when people achieve something or just want to be negative.
Right. That's
Yeah.
an interesting one there.
Like, okay, so he touched on the whole negative shit, okay? Me and Dan are striving to create something built around positivity. So positivity on our projects, positivity just in life in general.
Positive
because-
mindset and taking ownership of our
Yeah,
situation.
and I'm getting rid of like the negative people in my life slowly. And
It's hard to do.
Oh, it is hard to
it's-
do, but I'm doing it.
What a good feeling though.
Yeah,
And that
okay,
doesn't
initially
sustain.
you're like, oh fuck, I know that person for 20 years
Yeah.
and whatever, but you just cut them out and 2 weeks goes by, you forget about them. It's like stubbing your toe.
Yeah. Or it's just like, set a little mental challenge. Like every time you want to be rattled, it's like sometimes I'll challenge myself, like just don't be rattled right now.
Yeah.
Like today, like yesterday, or I had an inspection at one project I'm working on. There's a bunch of shit that needs to be redone in the basement, drywall, this
Like
and
a
that.
city inspection?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, I'm like, well, we got to move forward. It is what it is. It's not going to change. I'll chat with, my designer, Ken. I'll chat with my contractor. Yeah, maybe there could have been better communication somewhere. And, it's maybe going to cost a little bit more money, going to be a little bit more time, but that's not changing. You got to move forward. Getting mad at this person or that person. Like, yeah, maybe I should have been a bit more involved in communicating with everyone, but I wasn't. But
Right.
move on. This project will still be very successful.
Yeah.
The rate of return on it is still going to be way better than I hoped, and it's just maybe going to go from like here to here.
Yeah.
And
So it's not,
just-
at the end of the day, it's not a
yeah.
big deal. Like, I want to, after all this COVID stuff is done and whatever, I want
What's
to.
that?
Hmm?
What's COVID?
What's COVID? Yeah. So I want to start taking some time like to myself. So I'm gonna join a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym that my daughter goes to, and one of their like mantras about being positive and staying positive is that in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's no such thing as losing. There's only winning and learning. So you either won a match, you got the best of someone, or you quote unquote lost, but it's not really a loss. You learned how not to lose next time.
Right.
Okay.
100%.
Like when I heard, okay, so my daughter was in a tournament in Toronto and she got a silver medal and she was up against 5 other boys. So it was 1 girl and 5 guys. So
She's
6
awesome,
kids.
by the way. She's so good.
And she fights out of Absolute BJJ, which is out of House of Champions here in Stony Creek. And that jiu-jitsu program is part of the Jiu-Jitsu for Life team, which was started by the guy that runs Toronto BJJ. So he ran into her in like in the hallway and seen the Jiu-Jitsu for Life logo, and then seen she had a silver medal, but she was sad because she didn't win. She was second. And he gets down on, like, an older guy in his 50s. He gets down on one knee, like, just to
Hard-
get,
it's hard
to
for an
eye
old man
level,
to
right,
do.
with the kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's wrong? I only got a silver medal today. I lost, and I wanted that gold. And he said to her, he goes, did anyone tell you that there's no such thing as losing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? She's like, no, but I lost. He's like, no. He goes, you learned something today. So how did you lose? Well, I couldn't get around his spider guard. Well, on Monday when you go back to class, what are you going to ask your teacher to learn? How to get around a spider guard. And then the smile came up on her face, and she's like, you know what? Maybe losing isn't that bad.
It's an opportunity to learn. You can't know everything up front.
No, you can't.
Going into anything, you're not going to know everything. And the analysis paralysis. How many times have you heard that phrase?
I think we were talking. You're going somewhere with something earlier, and then you're saying people needing to just get involved, and I find, like, before someone maybe buys their first property, their first home, or their first invest property, it's just like there's a ton of analysis paralysis. But, like, I'd like to see the correlation of, like, time you spend since you're ready to buy for your first one to time spent after you buy your first one to buy the second one is just rapidly increased.
The amount of money that just sitting down, reading books, and researching has actually cost me is probably in the millions. Because I was looking to buy in my early 20s, and I didn't really start this until my 30s.
Yeah.
Like literally, if I had known everything that I know now, if I just took some action, if I went out and started talking to people that were doing this, I would have been doing this 10 years, 15 years ago.
In fairness, the one thing is, like, and in my line of work and personality, like, I really like numbers, analytical, oriented in that sense. But in real estate, like, I think one piece of advice you give people is, like, just accept that there will be things that happen with a property.
Yes.
That no matter
Everyone.
how much preparation you put in, and you were, like, if you're ranked on how prepared you were going in, you get a 10 out of 10. There's still shit that's going to come up.
Yes.
And it's going to happen. So waiting till you have, all that, research done. Obviously, research is very important, building that team, but, like, it's never going to be perfect.
You're dealing with projects. You're dealing with many unknown situations. You're dealing with people. Like, when you're dealing with different contractors, you're dealing with some very different personalities sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I've had to deal with contractors calling me in a panic. Like, this floor is shit. Like, oh my God, like, it's so terrible. And then you go over there and you're thinking, like, it's going to have, like, piss stains all over it or something like that. And you walk in and you're like, the fuck's wrong with this thing? Like, it's learning to deal with emotions. It's learning to deal with other people, going through different situations and stuff. Like, there's so many layers and so many things. You just have to understand that shit's going to happen, but you can get through it.
Yeah,
That's
don't
why I love
let
real
it
estate.
hold you back. Just move forward.
I think operating with ranges of outcomes is really important, like whether it's money and time and just, what's the best case, what's the worst case. Be prepared to live with a realistic worst case and just strive to hit the best case. And, the worst case, if you map it out, like in real estate, if you're prepared to move forward, is usually a pretty nice result compared to doing nothing.
Right.
And majority of the time, if you're surrounded by the right people, you're never really going to end up there. You'll be somewhere between the mid and, best case.
And there's opportunities for people too, other than just getting in for themselves. I mean, you can become a cash investor. If you've owned a home for 5 years, you have money, at least locally here. I mean, you can take that money, you can give it to an investor, and they can use it to invest for you, or you can become a partner, a joint venture partner. So if you're watching and you're interested in becoming a partner, give us a shout. Email me, Dan at Battlefield REI. Leave a message in the comments here. But that's what's great. What I love about real estate is that there's so many ways to get a deal done. There's so many different ways to get involved. Even if it's like a smaller, I only have 10 grand, but I want to own a little piece. Well, you can figure something out,
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you know how to swing a hammer, right? Okay, well then I'll hold up my end of the bargain that way too,
Sure.
There's so many ways to put the deals together.
It just comes down to, breaking down, expectations and what everyone's going to bring to the table, having an honest conversation. And that's, how a good partnership's put together.
Right. What are we at there for time there, Gregor? An hour. Where can Oh, you know what? We should go into in the trenches.
We forgot about that. I don't even. Okay, whatever. Go in.
Let's get there.
Let's find out what the guys have been up to this week in their real estate adventures. This is In the Trenches.
So we're working on getting our next project. So we have another project lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And
fraudulent mortgage company, like you were
Right.
saying before.
And
I hear you work magic. I associate magic with fraud. That's what this guy was doing.
Oh, okay.
For Woodlawn, right?
Yeah. So basically, we're our closing date's been pushed at least until mid-January. But in the meantime, we're not stopping. We're looking for our next project, and I actually had somebody reach out to me to discuss purchasing their home off market. Fantastic! This will be another off market project, and tomorrow we'll be lining that up. So right out of the gate for 2021. We'll have 2 projects
on the go.
Our goal, I'm going to put it out there, is 12 projects.
Listeners, hold us to it.
Right. And we want to add a couple of BRRRR projects as early as we can. Right. We still want to catch this wave of whatever it is, in terms of increase in equity. But if a good resto mod project comes along, we want to take advantage of that. And so we're going to run out of money that we have. Right. So this is a problem. Right. You're in a business. And if you're a good business person, you're a problem solver. Mm-hmm. So if you have the ability to go out and find a deal, what's your problem? Okay, I have no money. So how do you go find money? Whether it's private financing, we contact Josh. Whether it's through our own channels, right? You and I were discussing we have a certain amount of money we're sort of collecting on the side to purchase some of these properties too. As long it's math, it's simple math, right? And so we're gonna get out there. We're gonna get these 2 projects. I want to add a third to this one. Really challenge us from the financing side and from the construction side. So we're relying heavily on JDT Construction. Johnny's amazing, and he's only going to be able to expand his business so far.
Well, he's already told me because we're getting we got Woodlawn. We're going to get Adair. That he's going to hire 2 more people.
Right.
He's going to hire somebody to lead the job, and that guy, he's going to hire him an apprentice.
So our next plan is to have at least 2 or 3 projects on the go at a time. And then eventually I want to start bringing a lot of these resources in-house. So, it's one thing to go out there and try to find a deal, but eventually as you start building a business, it should be about managing your expenses and creating a deal. Mm-hmm. Right? Where other people don't see. There's a lot of times we've missed out on an opportunity. How are they doing it? Well, maybe they have better systems in place where they can do things more economically.
Yeah.
So that's sort of our plan going forward. The next year is to build that base of, okay, we can take on multiple projects. 2022 will be about increasing it then some, but having some of these systems in-house, creating better systems so that we can streamline, and manage our expenses, grow the business bigger, and buy an office.
Yeah.
So we can move the podcast out of Steve's basement.
Yeah. Get rid of
the center of the
fucking
universe.
fruit
It
fly.
has to
Center of
stay
the
in Stony
universe.
Creek, though, because I don't want to pay Dawson again.
It's very intimate. It's nice.
It's very intimate. Cheap
That's
black
in the
sheets.
trenches. You wanna send us out with a bang?
But didn't he have a fucking question?
I was going to ask a question.
Hold on, you got to send us out. We got to finish the segment with the bang. Where's the gunshot? Oh, there it is. In the trenches.
It's new as of last week.
Hit the doorbell.
It's not a thing yet.
the
Oh, yeah.
doorbell.
Hold on.
Producer Greg has a question.
I'm only allowed to talk if I ring the doorbell. So, from a non-in-the-industry guy, it's interesting to hear stuff like what's a pet peeve that someone in the industry might have. Something that you see
In the mortgage specific industry?
in the mortgage. Well, you own doors, so you've dabbled in other elements. What's something you see, something you hear that just makes you cringe?
I have this problem where I answer a question with 3 different answers, so I probably got a couple, right?
No.
No, it's all good.
So there's a real estate investor thing and there's a mortgage thing. So a real estate investor thing might be, what do they call it? OPM, other people's money. I hear that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I
want to buy property. I'm using OPM. I've got these. I want to buy 10 properties. Find the money for me.
Yeah, that exists, for someone who's very established, right? Who's has a track record, right? Who might bring something else to the table in a partnership, right? Where he'll go to the person has no experience, no resource, no contacts, and they will throw all their money in to get 50% or whatever the case may be, and that other person will use other person's money to go find a project.
Right.
But people who, sometimes it's not even necessarily the person who wants to get into real estate investment, but the maybe the groups they subscribe to who don't provide enough context around, certain real estate coaches or groups. They're like, yeah, you just want to go find other people's money. And it's doesn't really work that way. It's a little irresponsible. And so sometimes you speak to someone, and you're like, yeah, I want to get into real estate and I have no money. I don't plan to save. I don't we're not saying it's very difficult to save capital in life today to accumulate a down payment, but that is, if you're getting started, you need to have access to that. So that's one kind of pet peeve we come across. The mortgage world one is just people, assuming that they qualify to borrow money just because they assume. And the reality is you're asking someone to lend
I'll buy this house cash, no problem. Josh, help me out.
Yeah, and what the media, as negative as they can be, has actually been good over the last few years because people see, stress test, it's hard to get a mortgage. So people now take the process a lot more seriously, but it's just you're literally asking someone to lend you $200,000-$400,000, right? There's going to be a bit of a checklist involved versus just I pay rent.
They're entitled to ask questions. How many times have you been pissed off? Fuck this mortgage process. This is bullshit. Whatever. I'm like, dude, just breathe, relax.
Well, that's different. It's just annoying, but just not assuming that. Yeah, I don't know. So that was get me going there.
I was one of those people that just assumed I'm getting married, I'm gonna qualify for a mortgage, and I just assumed it, and I never asked any questions until. So me and my wife, we knew we were gonna get married before I even bought her an engagement ring. So I go to the bank. I've got probably $20,000-$30,000 saved. So I go to the bank to withdraw money to pay for an engagement ring, and the bank lady at the time flipped to the wrong screen. She's like, why is your credit rating so bad? I'm like, what's a fucking credit rating? She's like, did you have any credit cards? I'm like, no. I'm 23, 24. I lived a cash life. What I made is what I spent.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught being from an Eastern European family.
Old school.
There's no credit education in school,
no,
which is a problem.
Fucking nothing.
Big time.
And long story short, I had to take out a loan for an engagement ring that I had money for, and I had to get it co-signed by someone just so I can increase my credit. So
talk about spilling the beans on a big surprise.
What do you mean?
You're going to buy an engagement ring. Hey, listen, Dad, I need a co-sign for something. I can't.
Yeah. No, I
have a terrible Coke problem. Okay,
I even told him why to meet me down at the bank and whatever, and he's like, I had never even thought to teach you about credit. Yeah. Right? It's just he assumed that I knew.
Yeah.
Sorry, but actually I should add that why it's a pet peeve is because in those instances I see, whether it's the real estate investor just first time who thinks they're going to get other people's money, is they're just seriously disappointed, or they spent so much time thinking they're going to get into real estate and then they just find out that it just doesn't work that way. It can be very disappointing.
They watch all the HGTV shows
Yeah.
and they know everything.
Yeah, so it's frustration because it's disappointing for that person, or it's a letdown. And then on the mortgage side, it's not because it's an annoying conversation for me. That's fine. It's more just they sometimes put themselves in a financial bind because, you know, maybe they went firm on a house and they never got pre-approved, or no one encouraged them to go speak to someone in advance. And now all of a sudden, you know, they have a deposit on the line, or they got to bring in mom or dad or a person, and they got to, you know, get involved financially, or they lose their deposit. Like, that doesn't happen too often, but it's a financial potential hardship because of the assumption.
I want to ask about the pre-approval process real quick. Super exciting stuff, I know.
Yeah.
But seriously, being somebody that's in the industry, how many times I've dealt with a situation where it's like, okay, we get multiple offers and we're looking at one offer that's really good, and then I ask the question, have they been pre-approved? No one's ever said no, but I've had plenty of times where financing hasn't gone through. And I want to know, where's the disconnect between a pre-approval and an actual, like what are we missing in the pre-approval process? Like, actual documentation. I feel like it's like everyone's filling their shit out online, but let's face it, you know, you're not dealing with financial experts here, and some people might be fudging numbers, and then all of a sudden when it comes down to actually getting the approved mortgage, it's like, well,
Can I cut this off?
yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with the people that are applying for the mortgage. So they do this pre-approval bullshit online, and they're like, "Oh fuck yeah, I'm pre-approved for $500,000." So now they're looking for a house that's $500,000.
That's what I mean, though. Like, they're based on the input that they're putting on.
Yeah.
Technically, they're getting pre-approved, but the problem is,
But I would blame them for not learning more. They should go in and talk to a guy like him.
it's not that. Well, no, that's what I mean. Like, they can fill out a pre-approval form with you, and there's a lot of brokers. We're not dealing with real paperwork. I want to see NOAs. I want T4s.
Yeah.
All the process needs to happen up front. I need to know this person is going to qualify for this mortgage. Pre-approval almost means nothing in a lot of cases.
So, there's so many answers to why or where the disconnect is, but I think the number one thing that a lot of people don't know is a pre-approval is nothing, actually.
Yes.
It's nothing
I've
binding.
learned this over the years.
The only
I want to
thing-
know, like, if somebody tells me I've sent in my paperwork, I actually, you know, this is what I can afford.
The only thing that could be guaranteed prior to you buying a house with any bank or lender is the guarantee of a rate hold.
Right.
It's unfortunate just in our industry, pre-approval gets used, and it's nothing because no underwriter formally reviews your application, because part of being approved for a mortgage involves approving the property. So until you have a signed agreement of purchase and sale, the property is not reviewed, and things can change between the moment, you know, you and I chat. I say, hey, you know, based on all the information you have, yeah, you are I try not to use the word pre-approved. I use pre-qual. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But and then I say, how long is this good for? It's good for as long as, you know, your income doesn't change, your debt doesn't change, your down payment doesn't change, and the industry's rules don't change.
Okay.
So it's only as good, and also it's only as good as the paperwork that's supplied, right? So like you said, some people might offer a pre-approval based on filling out a form online. Some might be good asking for one piece of income documentation. We tend to be like extremely thorough or more annoying, where like we ask for everything up front so that there's no like wild
Steve's the worst.
no wild cards that come up during your offer, right? It's like, oh, I didn't know like those hours aren't guaranteed and they're just like overtime, and you don't always work overtime.
Right.
I just got the one pay stub where you happen to be crushing it that week, but then ever since we met, you hadn't worked overtime ever since, and now the income I projected then was like way more.
Yeah.
As an example, really exciting.
Well, that's like, Austin had to explain it to me. Like the reason.
So Austin Weldon
Austin's
worked-
underwriter on our team. He's a senior guy. He's been around since the early
Wow.
days. Yeah,
Oh,
he's awesome.
I've dealt with Austin from the beginning.
Yeah.
Good
I
guy.
started.
He's an OG.
He,
He's an OG. How old is he? Like 25?
He's like 20. I think he's 26, 27.
That was a good
he's
guess.
young.
You guys
You're
are
not 30
young.
yet, are you?
I'm 34.
Shut up.
Get the fuck out of
34.
here.
Look at him.
He
Pristine.
ages like Captain America.
Pristine.
34.
Look at
Doesn't
this
just
guy.
look like him.
Some
He still has his
moisturizer.
new human smell. He came in
moisturizer.
smelling like Don Juan. This place went from smelling like farts to cologne in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I told him he smelled good when he walked in.
right.
I didn't know how he was going to take that, but
That's right. I used
told you
to
it's
wear
intimate.
cologne.
It's intimate.
It's
That's what I
intimate.
meant, right?
I used to wear cologne all the time. I used to, I used to walk around smelling like eternity, but now it's just smoky bacon.
Calvin Klein's, right? That was a good one. Yeah.
we're going to get an email.
I
from
think
PETA.
I think that's a good note to go out on.
Yeah.
Josh, where can people find you if they're interested in finding a mortgage, if they're interested in finding more information maybe on investing in real estate? Where can they find
Yeah,
you?
you can find our website, Synergy Mortgage Group, Instagram, Synergy Mortgages, myself, Josh at PerezMortgages.com. We've got a great team, and always happy to help and excited to chat, real estate with anyone.
Right. Highly recommended by the crew here because we've used you guys many times and we really appreciate everything that you do for us. So
I like how well they explain shit too.
Right.
Like when you have questions, like I gave Austin a bunch of questions and he explained shit all the
Yeah.
time.
It's important to understand
It
what's
is.
going on,
It
right?
really
Not
is,
just do this because.
Sorry, Dan wants to end the show and I keep fucking talking.
Thank you guys. Thanks so much.
Steve
Give me the
doesn't
stink
recognize
eye.
cues very well. So until next time, my name is Dan Carroll for producer Greg, Steve Kopak, and our amazing guest from Synergy Mortgage Group, Josh Perez, urging you to go out there and just take action, seek discomfort, and work like hell.
For more information on investing in real estate, visit BattlefieldREI.com and follow us on Instagram at BattlefieldREI Inc. and at Renovating Hamilton. Music for the show provided by JosephMcDade.com and voiceover by Mike Dawson.